Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Follow Your Passion podcast. I'm your host, Erwin Wils. I'm a mindset and business strategist and founder of Millionaire Life Strategy. In this podcast, I'm interviewing my clients and other entrepreneurs that are following their passion and make a good living out of it. When you want to know more about me or what I can do for you, check out my website, millionaireLifestrategy.com. But first, check out this episode of Follow Your Passion. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Follow Your Passion podcast. Please welcome my guest of today. Her name is Soroya Garner. Soroya is an attorney, speaker, and coach who is on a journey to help creatives and entrepreneurs to make their mark and leave their legacy. As the founder and managing attorney of Soroya Garner Law, LLC, she helps ensure that the intellectual property of entrepreneurs is protected so that it has a lasting legacy and creates generational wealth. She works with creative entrepreneurs across the country with securing trademarks, copyrights, business entity formations, and contracts. Speaking about the importance of legacy building is an important topic to Soroya, which is why she travels to communities, organizations, and conferences to teach about how small business owners can protect their business, their brand, and their legacy. Her upcoming book, The Legacy Blueprint, will help business owners to gain insight on the key principles of business formation, brand ownership, and asset protection. Always want to give back, Soroya regularly shares her time with the community by leading free workshops centered around entrepreneurs and business ownership. Attorney Garner has also committed to helping minority business owners by offering discounted legal services for federal trademarks on an annual basis. Welcome, Soroya. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, but so tell me how come you're so passionate about protecting the rights of the business owner?
I am passionate about protecting the rights of the business owner because it's such a critical and important part of your business, and most people don't realize it. So I spend a lot of time and energy on educating entrepreneurs and creatives about the importance of their creative assets or their intellectual property, because it's so important, especially in this digital age, and to learn how to leverage our intellectual property to make income from it. So yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, I can totally mention that. And do you also have some intellectual property yourself that you protected?
Well, that's a great question. Everyone actually has intellectual property, but it's whether or not you recognize that and whether you protect it and leverage it. So yes, I do have intellectual property just like everyone else, and mine is protected, of course. So I actually have to practice what I preach and teach. So
yeah,
for sure.
It's very interesting that you mentioned that, because I think that a lot of business owners don't know what they can protect. So
Yeah.
I guess there's a very big challenge for you to make them aware of that.
Yeah, actually that's very true. It takes a lot of time to go out and just educate and make business owners aware of what IP really is in the first place. So IP is essentially creations of the mind. It's anything that you create and you can see, touch, or feel it. So if you've got an idea and you bring it into fruition, that is intellectual property. A business name was once an idea, but you brought it to fruition. So that is intellectual property. There's a huge gamut of items and assets that would be considered intellectual property, but we just have to take the time to sit back and understand what that looks like in our everyday business.
Yeah. Well, very interesting, because I created my own coaching program, my signature program, back in 2021. And I wanted to register that as intellectual property as well. Yet the authority that should, should register it, it said it was too, I'm not sure what terms they use, because it's all jargon to me. But it was like, it was too general. You know, I've got my coaching program, which is called the Profitable Passion Program. and it consists of five modules, and they all start with a P, and there's all a meaning behind it. And I wanted to register the whole package, so to speak. I even have a sign for that, and they said you can't register it because it's too general.
Yeah.
And I found it very, very interesting because I thought, I have something unique. It's a combination of everything. And they
Mm-hmm.
said it's too general.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you bring up. There's so much that goes into IP in general, but when you go to register, let's say trademark, so to speak, there's a lot that goes behind it. So when people ask whether or not they can file their own trademarks on their own, I really don't advise that because it may seem simple, but if you don't know what you don't know, then you really could end up putting yourself at a disadvantage when you go to file those types of things. So you are very on point about the fact that the trademark office or whatever authority in your country, they could deny your registrations if it's deemed generic. And so that's something to keep in mind when we're going out and thinking of names for our new business ventures or for our training programs. We want to come up with names that are distinctive and unique and aren't, generic and just describe what service or product it is that we're offering. So, for example, our most everyone, well, I won't say that, but a lot of people have Mac computers, right? We have Apple. That's a generic name, but it has absolutely nothing to do with technology. And so that's an example of taking, a common word and making it unique or distinctive by tying it to a good or a service that is totally unrelated. So that's just some strategy and things to take into consideration when you are naming your business or naming a coaching program or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So as you said, there goes a lot into, and I'm glad that you're the expert and not me. So, how did you end up choosing for this expertise? Because you're an attorney, but it's like a coach. A coach is a very generic term as well. You have all kinds of coaches.
Yeah.
And you're specialized in intellectual property. Was that
Yeah.
a conscious decision, or was it something that you already felt, this is important, people don't know much about it, I should make it heard by the people?
Yeah. No, it was a combination of both, really. So I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My mom was an entrepreneur. I know I had several family members that were business owners. So I was kind of raised in that world.
Mm.
And I understood, some of the struggles that entrepreneurs face. And it's like, wow, I could really be of service and add value by serving as an intellectual property and entrepreneurship attorney. But also, in addition to that, I grew up playing classical piano. So I had a huge heart for the arts, for music, and I just wanted to figure out a way to be of service as well to that group of business owners and creatives as well, because I truly understand that lots of creatives, they get taken advantage of because they don't know how to read and understand the contracts that they're signing. We don't understand the value of our creativity. And I just saw that as a gap. And so that's kind of what led me to wanting to serve as an IP attorney.
Nice. And the first thing that comes to mind when you're talking about creatives and losing the intellectual property that they created, first thing
Hmm.
that comes to mind for me are musicians,
Yeah.
right? Singer-songwriters that sign up contracts with production companies, and if they do it wrong, they get zero, right? And the company gets all the money, and you get a lot of uh, issues on that side as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, no, that's a huge issue. And so I really do like to help people read through those contracts and make sure that they are favorable and fair to both parties. So it's very important to be aware of what you're signing before you go signing things. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what part of your business do you like the most? Is it the actually the filing of the intellectual property and getting it signed and getting it registered, or is it more like the strategic thinking with your clients on how to do everything and how to name it or how to position it.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, these days I am blessed to be able to spend a little bit more time going out in the community and attending conferences and actually teaching and leading workshops. So that's what I actually enjoy the most
Mm.
about what it is that I do. You know, the filings, that's fine, but I really get the most joy out of being in front of people and leading workshops and answering questions and just seeing what it is that, everyday entrepreneurs are struggling with, and just spending that time with them and being of value and giving them intellectual property lessons that they don't know about and that could be advantageous to them.
Nice, nice. So how long have you been in this business, Soraya?
So I've been in the business for almost 3 years. So I graduated from law school at the height of the pandemic in 2020. Didn't even have a formal graduation. I had a drive-by graduation that my mom
Mm.
put together for me, but it was great.
Yeah,
But anyway, I graduated in 2020 from law school, and I always knew, even prior to attending law school, that I was going to graduate and start my own practice. So that's what I did. That's what I'm doing, and I enjoy it. So yeah,
nice,
it's been almost 3 years now.
nice. And how do you like entrepreneurship? You said you already grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, so you already had a head start from some other entrepreneurs. But how do you like it now that you're an entrepreneur yourself?
Well, you know what? I love it. It is definitely not easy and it's not for the faint of heart. So social media glamorizes it and it makes it seem like entrepreneurship is just so easy and a cakewalk. It's not. It is a daily struggle and it pushes you past any boundary that you thought you ever had. But I've experienced so much growth being in entrepreneurship myself, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I enjoy it, and it's definitely a beautiful process.
Yeah, and I also remember that when you're an entrepreneur, that you should accept the fact that you will make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing a lot of things for the first time. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's okay to make it's totally acceptable that you make mistakes. The only thing that you have to do is to learn from those mistakes, right? That you don't repeat them again. But I can imagine that making a mistake in your business is even uh, I won't say worse, but it has more effects if you make a mistake.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't just affect me. I'm serving real people that have real businesses, right? So yeah, there is a lot more pressure to make sure you get it right. But that's why you have mentors. Mentors
Yeah.
are so important that can guide you, that can make you aware of pitfalls that may be ahead. I definitely wouldn't be able to do this alone, working in a silo. So having mentors around is definitely it's crucial. It's very important, not just for me, but for any business owner or person in general. So I definitely value that mentorship that I do have, but also just having a relationship with clients and not just treating them as another case file, right? They are real people, and to have a relationship, and if a mistake does come up, which, usually I've never really had any detrimental mistakes, but if there are any minor mistakes, usually I work with wonderful people and they're gracious if that were to be the case. But yeah, we can't be afraid to make mistakes and to just get out there and jump in.
Yeah, and also one thing that you didn't mention it so explicitly, but also um, you have to be able to ask for help, right?
Yeah.
And what you just said, that having a mentor is very important, or having a
Mhm.
coach, or having somebody that can help you, because we all have blind spots, right? And we don't see them ourselves. That's why they're called blind spots, of course. But it helps if there's somebody that can make you aware of those and help you get over them, or at least how to deal with them.
Mhm.
While what's your experience with people around you about asking for help? Do you think it's difficult for them, or does it come easy?
Well, of course, I have those that it is easy for them to ask for help, and then others, it may be a little bit more challenging. And I, at one time, and maybe even still a little bit, have challenged with asking for help sometimes. And we have to get over that, right? Like I said, we can't operate in a silo and do it all by ourselves. So you may feel like you're being a burden or bothering someone when you're reaching out and asking for their time to help you. But you just go for it. You have to get over yourself and realize that it's bigger than you. So ask for help. And most people, they want to help. They want to give back to you. And so yeah,
Yeah,
we
definitely.
need to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I'm from the Netherlands, so our culture is a bit different than from the United States and overseas, so to speak. For instance, if in the United States a business owner goes bankrupt and he starts over again, they applaud him for that, so to speak, right? Because
Hmm.
he has done it once, he failed, so he learned a valuable lesson, and he won't fail the second time, right? He will do much better.
Yeah.
While in the Netherlands, we don't speak about it if we would go bankrupt because we are ashamed to mention it because we have failed and it's bad. And
Hmm.
I think it's the same with asking for help, that a lot of people can feel it like they're not capable, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't want to ask for. I should be able to do it on myself, right?
Hmm.
And asking for help is like it's almost like a bad thing, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
But you should know that you don't know everything, right? And there are people that have gone through the experience that you're currently experiencing, and asking them how they dealt with that, or if they have any tips or insights or anything, is so valuable that you don't have to struggle all by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't. You have to sit with yourself and just realize that none of us on this earth are perfect. We are not perfect. And even those that are where you want to be, like you said, they have once been in your shoes before. There's no one that knows it all. So don't feel ashamed or beat yourself up or be so hard on yourself, feeling like you have to have all of the answers and you don't. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So don't be ashamed to ask for
Yeah.
help when needed.
Definitely, right. And I always like to look for metaphors. And if you look at the sports environment, right?
Mhm.
Every top athlete has at least one coach or mental coach or whatever, right? There's nobody reached the top by himself, right?
That's very
They
true.
all know that there are others. They're able to help them excel and get to achieve the full potential. And
Mhm.
so, why should it be any different in business, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you're right on. Right
Nice.
on.
So, Soraya, do you have any example of a client that you're very proud of? That you thought, I didn't know that was possible. He or she did it.
You know what? I have several clients that I am proud of. I'm not proud of all of my clients,
Of
but
course. Yeah,
just
yeah.
to be an entrepreneur in and of itself is kudos. That is worthy of applause because, like we talked about, it is hard being an entrepreneur. So, anytime that you can get out there every day and bet on yourself and stick to your goal, that is commendable. But I really do appreciate those specific groups of clients that maybe didn't know anything about intellectual property before meeting me, right? And they learned about it, and it may have seemed foreign to them, but they gathered the information. They realized that it's important to invest in themselves and to learn this area of their business. And then they trusted me to serve as their counsel to protect their intellectual property and now are moving on and really taking full advantage of that protection and growing their business. And they're able to do so with the peace of mind, knowing that they own their brand, they own their intellectual property and creativity. So I'm really proud of those clients that have had that specific walk.
Nice, nice. And I can also imagine that in your business as well, that there's a lot of jargon used,
Yeah.
right? In contracts, everything like that. And for you, it might be obvious what certain terms mean, right? But it isn't obvious for your clients. So
Mhm.
how do you deal with that? How are you able? Are you using metaphors to explain things, or how do you deal with that with your jargon?
So I am very conscious about not using legal jargon with my clients because I understand that most people don't know what the heck I'm talking about if I were to use legal jargon. They never heard these words before. And so when you understand that, you can step back and put yourself in your client's shoes, right? And speak to them from that perspective. So many attorneys will walk around using this fancy legal jargon so they can sound bigger than what they are, smarter than what they are. And that's not necessary. So I believe in being humble and operating with humility and just putting yourself in the client's shoes and speaking to them as if you were, coming from their perspective. So I think that's very important.
Nice. Now you're gathering all your knowledge and wisdom in a book, right?
Yes, yes,
How's
yes,
that?
yes.
How's that coming along?
So it's actually a workbook. I believe that it's not very beneficial to just gain information. We need to implement it, right? In
Hmm.
order to benefit from it. And
Yeah.
so I had strategically am working on a workbook so that you can actually gain the information and to take action on it. So I encourage my clients to read it from front to back and to work through it. I ask questions about business formation, and there's different considerations that they need to think about before they actually move forward with officially forming their business. So we have sections on contracts, important contracts that every entrepreneur needs to have in their business. And we just give a breakdown of what those contracts mean, what type of provisions you need to have in there. And it's formed in a way that the everyday business owner can understand. And of course, we're going to talk about intellectual property and have you work through an inventory checklist. So actually sit down and work through this checklist and identify what types of IP exists in your business. So in order to protect it, you must first identify it. And so that's what we encourage in this workbook. And yeah, I think it's a great resource and will be beneficial for sure.
Nice, nice. And is it finished already? Is it operational, your workbook, or is it still in progress?
Well, it is still in progress. We'll be finished with it here in a couple months.
Ah, nice. I think that's a very valuable asset that you have there, Soraya.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to create this workbook?
Well, what inspires me is being out, going to these conference, to these community centers and speaking to entrepreneurs. Many of them are foreign to the idea of how to properly start a business and what business is even best suited for you. So here in the States, LLC, right? That's extremely common and talked about all over social media, but we don't hear too much about all the other business structures that are available. So I just understand that there's a lot of conversation in the legal aspect that entrepreneurs don't have access to and just aren't aware of. And so I just saw that as an opportunity to be able to be of service and to do so at a rate that is affordable for most people. So a lot of entrepreneurs that I come across that may not be ready to come on as a full service client of mine. So, but they still need the information, and so that's why I provided the workbook so that they can still have access access to information that's going to help them, but it may not be at the full investment that's required when you want to be a client. So,
Yeah, nice. And
yeah.
talking about that, in your introduction, I also said that you're giving something back to society, by helping minority business owners. So
Yeah.
tell a little bit more about that. How did you come to that part of your business?
Yeah, so I just understand that we have a obligation to be of service to one another, right? We need to be of value to each other.
Yeah.
And so especially being an attorney, it's a privilege. It really is a privilege to have been able to go through law school, to pass the bar, to have my license, and I don't take that for granted. So I recognize that through that journey, I have gleaned a lot of information that most people don't have access to. And so knowing that, I think, is very important. And like I said, it is in a sense an obligation to give back. And that's why I am very passionate and committed to doing workshops on a regular. I have 2 this week that I'll be doing before the week's up. So I'm just sharing my time with community groups, and helping them through these conversations about how to legally protect their business is really important, but also an honor.
Yeah, I can imagine that, and it's also it's very rewarding knowing that you have information or skills or experience that can help make a difference in another person's life, right?
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did you also have uh, other question? Looking all the things that you're doing, and you already shared that you love teaching and sharing knowledge and information. Where do you see yourself in, let's say, 5 years from now?
In 5 years from now, I would love to at least have a team of 2 attorneys on board with me. So right now it's just me. I'm doing it all. I'm out teaching, I'm out serving the clients, growing the business. And if you're an entrepreneur, you understand that that can be overwhelming. So in 5 years, I would love to be building out my team so that I can do more of this, being on podcasts and just being a resource to the community. So that's definitely where I see the firm going, and excited about the process.
Nice, nice. And did you now that we're talking about it, it just came to my mind. Did you consciously chose to use your own name as your company name?
Yeah, I did consciously select that, but there's also tons of rules for attorneys about how you can name your practice and things of
Hmm,
that nature. So we don't have a ton of options on how creative we can get with naming our firm. So it was a little bit of both. I was conscious of it, and also I had some parameters I had to follow as well. So.
nice. And so when you're um, when you're growing your business,
Mhm.
sometimes you see like law firms that have like 5, 6 names in the company name, right? Because everybody should be a fellow and they're all directors, so to speak. Um, is it common to let's say that you attract another lawyer and you decide to join forces and become the two lawyer company, so to speak? Is it common that they add the name to the company name, or does it stay as the founding member?
No, so as you add partners into the firm, then it is common that you will add those names to the official name of the law firm. So I can think of several firms that are here in my city that have changed over time because they've had new partners come and go. And so as that happens, the names of your law firm will typically change. So yeah, that's a great question.
Okay. Um, it's actually funny because if you have like a company with 5 partners, it will take a whole business card just to mention the name, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
goodness, that's something to keep in mind.
yeah, definitely. Just choose partner with short names, right?
There you go.
So if you talk in that sense, if you're talking about expanding your company, would it be with potential business partners, or would it be just be employees? What do you
You know,
prefer?
at this point, I don't see myself adding partners, but who knows? That may change at some point, but right now, they would just be coming on as, team members.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you're talking about creative entrepreneurs, it's still a broad field, so to speak.
it
What,
is.
what's your ideal client if we're talking about those creative entrepreneurs?
Mhm.
Are they
Well,
are
since
they like I told? Are they could they be musicians, or could they be singer songwriters, or are you more talking about the creative entrepreneurs that are more like inventors or in the technical space? Or
mhm. And actually, I've served a wide array of creatives. So I have inventors, I have visual artists, I have musicians, I have DJs. Um, there's so many. But ideally, of course, I do have a heart for musicians. So
Mm,
when we speak about ideally, that's what that kind of looks like. So I would love to serve musicians and protecting their works in that level. But I'm able to be of service to all. So, like I mentioned, I have a wide variety of entrepreneurs and creatives that I serve, and they're in many different industries and have many different skills and talents. So it's fun. It really is fun to talk to these people on a daily basis, get to know them, get to learn about what it is that they're doing in this world and how they're contributing. So it's a really fun job. I enjoy it.
I can totally imagine that, because you're sitting on the front row of all the new inventions, right? Whether it being an invention or a new song or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, so I was strategic about, what area of law I wanted to practice. Not only was it a passion of mine, but I had to take in consideration lifestyle. And so I didn't want to be a criminal, defense attorney that has to go to court and work on these awful cases that are going to keep you up all night and you lose sleep over. I
Yeah.
wanted a lifestyle and a career that actually fit what I want to do and to enjoy it. And so I think I made the right decision.
Yeah, it sounds so. So another thing that came to mind, we were talking about intellectual property, that registering, filing it for registration is just one thing, right? And if it's,
Yeah.
but after it has been filed and registered, and it's officially trademarked by you or registered,
Mhm.
um, it doesn't stop there, right? Because it's what if somebody starts using your product or your service or your intellectual property? Is that something that you help your client with as well, or how does that work?
Yes, and that's an excellent question. And that's also a major piece that a lot of people will skip over. So they'll go and get their trademark registration and be excited about it. But you forget that you have to monitor that registration. You have to make sure that there is no other companies popping up that are using your trademark. You have to police it. And you also have to keep up with your renewal of your registration as well. So you just can't, get your certificate and forget about it. There's actually work that has to be put in after registration. And so I do help with that. I do help my clients keep on top of their renewals and monitoring their marks. So we'll do random searches just to make sure that there aren't any other new businesses that have popped up and have started using, a name or a tagline or something that may have been similar or identical to my client's registration. And so if you do come across, registrations that are infringing or are too similar to your particular name, then you do have to take action. And that may look like just reaching out and sending a friendly request for them to stop using your name, or it could be a little bit more forceful, sending a cease and desist letter or issuing takedown notices with, the social media platforms. Um, there's different options to go about it, but that's very important and a great question. So yeah, you do have to monitor your mark after it's been registered.
Yeah. And I also noticed that there's also a lot of, how you say it, abuse of it, right? I
Mhm.
sometimes get uh, it's almost like spam, like
Yeah.
you're getting a message somewhere from the Far East that there's this company that wants you register this and this company name, and it looks very similar to you, and
Mhm.
we just want to check whether or not you're okay with that, right? And then they use your company name, and they have added .cn or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm always aware of those messages when I get them, and I say, "Oh, that's spam again," right? But
Oh yeah.
do you also um, how do you inform your prospects and clients how to deal with that? Because you can register every URL on the internet, but that's going to
Mhm.
cost you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It is going to cost you, but it might cost you even more if you don't. And so you really have to adjust your perspective and mindset about your cost. And so what's more important to you? Making sure that, your intel, your brand is protected, or trying to save a few coins, right? So for most people, if you invested a ton of time and resources, even financially, into building and protecting your brand, then you might as well go on ahead and invest in those additional safeguards in order to make sure that you can rest assured that your brand is protected at the end of the day. So I do advise my clients when they're submitting trademark applications that they also make sure that they have their social media handles, they have their website domain secured as well. Because, like you said, there are a ton of spammers out here and scammers that monitor that stuff, and they'll go out and try to take your domain name or social media handle once they see that you've registered or submitted for a trademark registration. So,
Yeah, perfect. Um, I think I find it very interesting to talk about the intellectual property and how to deal with that, and I truly think, like you said, that a lot of entrepreneurs out there don't know what kind of intellectual property they have, right?
mhm,
If you
yeah.
could share one tip or little piece of wisdom with the audience, about following your passion or entrepreneurship or maybe even intellectual property, what would it be, Soraya?
Oh man, I could give tons of tips, but for entrepreneurship in general, I would truly say stick to what you're passionate to and just focus on that. Don't get caught up in those around you that might doubt your dream or doubt your vision. If that has been given to you, if the vision has been given to you, if you're working in your gifts, then you're bound to be successful. So just stay the course. There are going to be hurdles and roadblocks that are presented to you along your journey, but you just have to persevere through it. And at the end, it'll all be worth it. But also to protect your intellectual property because it is one of the most valuable assets of your business. And so I always am going to recommend that you do whatever needs to be done in order to protect that. And yeah.
Wonderful. So, if people, due to our conversation, are interested in intellectual property or maybe becoming afraid because they haven't done anything with it, right?
Yeah.
And they want to know more about you. How can they do that? Where can they find you? How can they can in touch with you?
For sure. So I can be contacted via my text line. So you can text SGL to 6666 to get in contact with me. But also, if you just want to have access to tips or information, then you can follow me on social media at Soroya the Lawyer.
Nice. And the number you just mentioned, I guess that's for US citizens, right?
Yes, it is. Well, you know what? I'm not sure. It may be. I don't know if anyone can actually text it. Actually, that's a great question.
But at least you're finable with Soroya Garner Law
Mhm.
LLC and
Yeah.
Soroya the lawyer. That's you.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Perfect. Well, I truly enjoyed the conversation. It makes me think about my own business again as well, and what kind of intellectual property I already have in my pocket. So thanks for your sharing your information, your expertise. Wish you all the best, and definitely stay in touch, Soraya.
Thank you so much, Erwin. Take care.
I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to check out the other episodes because each one is filled with interesting and inspiring stories and energy. Are you following your passion as well and make a good living out of it? Contact me and you could be my next guest. Would you like to follow your passion but are not there yet? Check out my website millionaireLifeStrategy.com and book an appointment to discover what I could do for you. Don't forget to share the podcast with your friends so that they get inspired as well.